So good night, good evening, everybody. Tonight is our third LifeEd. See, like it says over here, LifeEd. We started it a year ago. It's a program that educates and creates awareness to improve the quality of life for everyone here on the South Shore. And now with quarantine and everything going on Zoom, it's helping everybody get educated, connected, create awareness, and learn. And you said the main thing is connect. Through connection, I think we learn the most. So I believe that everyone we can learn something from everyone. You know, it used to be that only the professionals and people with high degrees would talk and would educate and would be there out there giving life lessons and teaching us about everything. But today, thanks to technology, everybody is able to share, and I find that we learn much more. I find that there's this surge of healing and wanting to be better, and I find it beautiful, and so I want to be part of it. And tonight I'm interviewing Batya, Jaime, because let me tell you, the first time I met her was actually when we just moved. It was one of the first Shabbat. I think it was either the first or the second Shabbat. Someone in Montreal had given me her number. And I called her because I'm living here. We have no synagogue. We have nothing. We know no one. I need to have a Shabbos guest. I need to celebrate Shabbat with someone. And I called her. And even if she didn't know me, she came with her 3 beautiful kids. And since then, our bond grew stronger. And she is leaving an amazing impression on me. I learned so much. You know, I thought that I was here to teach, but when I saw Batya, I actually learned so much, and I keep on learning so much. And before the interview, she asked me actually why I called her, why I wanted her to talk and to do this LifeEd talk. So the reason why is because I learned so much from you. I'm so impressed since the first time I saw you with your kids coming over Shabbat and seeing how you're so connected to God, to Judaism, and how you deal with all the different things, whether it's your son Isaac, whether it's dealing with raising your children and work, and now since these two years that just was it 2 years? 17 months. You blew my mind, and I wanted to know what is your secret? What is it that you just are able to hold everything together and just continue and smile? And not only that, continue to empower and give. When all these things are happening, all I want to do is hide, and you don't even think of others, but all you do is give and reinforce people. So that's the reason why I called you tonight. And I want you to share with us, with me, and at the same time with whoever's watching, what is your secret? Maybe we can start with where you grew up.
I actually grew up on the South Shore, Brossart, my whole life. I think we didn't know any Jews, except for the odd Jewish teacher who'd pop up once in a while.
Did you know you were Jewish?
We did, but it meant nothing. We were raised, it didn't have any significance to us until I did date an Egyptian man when teenager. When I was a teenager, and I asked him once, I'm like, why don't we go hang out at your house? And he looked at me and went, oh no, we can't do that. I'm like, why? He goes, because you're Jewish. I was like, and then I started realizing, okay, well, maybe there's something to being Jewish. And we also had this thing where people would come up to us and we'd say, yeah, we're Jews, as a matter of fact. And people were like, well, then why do you smoke? And how do you live down here? And why's your last name the Gagnon? And it seemed to have mattered me being Jewish more to other people than it did myself or therefore my family. Until 1999. I was going through a major transition in my life. I was living alone. I was in an apartment. And I was working 2 jobs and going to school, which, as you know, never stopped, never changed. And then I got super depressed. This can't be. I'm only 19 years old and life could be this hard, this difficult and this no meaning. So I had a nice conversation with God one day, not knowing who or what God is, but I was like, you know what, if you exist, I need this to happen. I'm not going to go into the details. And literally by that Friday, that weekend, almost everything that I said started happening. And not only did it start happening, he sent a Jew along the way. When this guy showed up and he sat down, I was working, and I asked him, I was so annoyed that somebody came to the place, to the restaurant.
You were working in the
I
restaurant?
was working, but it was like a ghetto restaurant. It was like super quiet. There was nobody there, and I was enjoying my peace and quiet after working 2 jobs and then finally going to school. At the end of the night, I didn't want to deal with anybody. And this guy walked by, and I was like, oh gosh. And then all of a sudden, he decides to come and sit down, and I was just enjoying my quiet. But it's my job. So I asked him, you want something to drink? Do you want something? He's like, nope. I was like, first of all, that's just weird. And then he turned around and something inside me just like jumped. I saw his kippah. And I went, oh my gosh, you're Jewish, so am I, but I know nothing. Why did I just say that? And it literally came out all in one breath. And I guess there was something bigger than me that was working, because we ended up spending, a good few hours just talking on what it means to be Jewish. And he told me a few stories, which was great. And within 2 months, I ended up in New York, and the land of rabbis.
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, New York.
Crown Heights, right?
Crown Heights.
Wow.
In the land of rabbis at the yeshiva. I walked into the yeshiva wearing salsa shoes and tight black pants and a t-shirt, and I'm sure my leather jacket was somewhere close by. And I just started learning, and I chose to do that because when you get to such a dark place, and I tell everybody this, no matter who you are, no matter which religion you follow, whatever, you need a baseline. And when you come from the home that I came from, we didn't have a baseline. One of the biggest places you can get lost in is your mind.
Can you explain what you mean by baseline?
Baseline, I don't come from a stable home. And that said, there was a lot of drama and a lot of pictures, not what you expect from a family. You expect a father's going to be there, and a mother does this, and a father. And I'm not going to go into the details, because I think the details of our drama and our lives are just that, details. When it comes to actually living it, we're all kind of on the same level. It doesn't matter what the details of the story is.
So a strong foundation. You mean you didn't have some security?
Exactly. We did not have a strong foundation. There was, very much not. So when I started learning, and I knew that something was missing. My father always kept us, he brought us to church once just to let us know that there's this thing called God out there. He was raised in Rosemont with his family, so he knew that the Jews did certain things, but he couldn't explain why. But he always kept telling us there is more to life than just this.
And did you discover that in Brooklyn?
I did.
What did you,
Oh my gosh.
pulled you?
First of all, what pulled me is I needed change. And I knew I needed to learn an example. I needed to have a baseline, just to fall back on, to understand what is it everybody's doing. If you talk to famous people who have been successful, everybody thanks God. God, thank you God, thank you God. When you come from a world where I come from, it's so foreign, and it's so that you have to jump into something completely different. It's like that story of the tree. If you have a tree that's bent fully on one side, and you want it to stand strong, the only way to do it is to literally pull it
the other side.
Completely the other side, and hold it there for a little while. So I knew by jumping and going straight into Crown Heights in Brooklyn that it was me just pulling that tree the other way to try to find a center, or even what that means, or what does stability mean, what does God mean, what is all this about. And even if it's just to get a little bit of that insight. And I ended up staying there for a good 7 months, and I went from wearing, like I said, salsa shoes to wearing my skirts and keeping kosher and doing Shabbos. And I think it was the best thing in the world. One of my friends said, she goes, absorb it all, because once you come back to life, back to your home and stuff, it's something you're going to miss. And it is something you do miss. And I really wish I had listened and absorbed more at the time. And then I was given a gift to be able to go to Israel that summer as well. It was beautiful. I do wish, though, I didn't do it in that way, because by going straight to yeshiva, I didn't get to do like the birthright, which I didn't get to go and see the Dead Sea and go see these.
It's not too late.
Check out a kibbutz.
It is not too late.
It's not too late. If only we can get rid of this beautiful COVID business.
It is not too late.
It would be great. So everybody, please keep wearing your masks.
Okay, so you went to Crown Heights. You went on the total complete extreme.
Total complete.
And then come back to life.
Oh, this was hard. I came back to the community and I moved into the community, thinking this is what I got to do. And I stayed there for quite a while. And I met some amazing people. And the best thing that I really got to learn is I got to see what family and family unit and a healthy family unit looks like. And I got to see that. And I learned, and I observed, and I watched, and I can name quite a few families that I've learned from. The Gagnons being one of them. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes. if Karen or any of the Gagnons are watching, you inspired Batya.
They really did. Karen, definitely. And but then there came a time where I was still in the community, but then I started feeling like a foreigner. Not to quote your sister's beautiful song. A refugee.
Refugee.
And I started feeling out of place, like there was still something missing, something that didn't seem right. It felt like I was trying too hard. And I went to see my rabbi at the time, and I looked at him, I'm like, I don't get it. I go, I'm doing everything right, everything's going right, I'm learning and everything, but I still feel this way. And he said one sentence to me that literally made me get up and go. And it's not the community that I left. It's still a journey. Everything, our life, our entire life is
You're
a journey.
still here. You didn't leave.
She
made us come.
A lot is happening. And then he looked at me and he said, Batya, he goes, I have no respect for somebody who lives their lives for others. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? He's right. I started this journey because I needed to find out more about myself. But becoming fully religious was not who I was. It's not who I was then. I still had a lot of learning to do, because there's one thing to learn the Torah, but there's another thing to incorporate it. And if you just go book by book and line by line, then you're kind of like, it becomes monotonous, and it becomes dull, and there's
fake.
Meaning
it's fake.
Exactly.
You're taking so I just want to pause you here, because this is where she opened my eyes. When I had her on Shabbos, the first Shabbos, and she's telling me all these things, these concepts, and I realized that being connected to God, there's no look. You don't have to look a certain way to be, first of all, to be Jewish, but not only to be Jewish, to be connected to God and to do a mitzvah. You don't have to look like me, okay? If you wanna put it that way, anyone could do it, and that's what Batya opened. She was one of the first persons that I met, and she opened my eyes to it. That that we all could learn from each other, and more. We can do, practice Yiddishkeit if you want, Judaism, and still be yourself without losing who you are.
And that's what happened.
And I feel
for the longest time, when I stayed in the community and stuff, I was not feeling connected, and I was losing, because even before Judaism, I was very spiritual in my own way. There is no way that a child, can live through all this stuff and not have purpose. And in my mind, and as a little girl, I don't know where it came from, I don't know how it came to be. I've always believed that I know that I was a good girl. And I knew that all this had nothing to do with me. But it was there. So as I grew up, it stayed with me. And when I left the community, I felt kind of bad, because I know I was questioned a lot why I was leaving, or why I left. And the reason is, this is my home. The South Shore is my home. And I didn't leave to run away from my problems. I left to help gain tools to help me fix them, to help me grow with them. Do you understand?
And maybe also, the way I see it, the way I see your entourage, is to bring what you learned to the South Shore.
The best that
I feel like you have such an impact on the people, even your neighbors, everyone around you. So you learned, you took, you connected, and now here's your mission. You have to come. Hashem wanted you here to continue.
I love my home. Like, we live in an apartment. We live in a community that's very vast in culture and stuff. And at first, for many years, it was like, oh, why are we here? We deserve better. We should get better. But then my husband and I would sit back, and we have all kinds of culture coming to our door. I had an imam bringing me treats, and I have the Jewish rabbi coming around dancing for the holidays. And then I have all kinds just coming up, and this was enlightening and enriching, and I didn't feel like I had to be anybody else as well. But I still needed Judaism, because when I came back home, because a lot of people, what they do is when they come from a hard childhood or hard lives, they try to run away with their lives. They'll move to different countries, they'll try a different city, but they're just equally
sometimes
as
they'll
not
even
happy.
run away into Judaism, to not face their problems.
Exactly.
I find
It's
that
just to to put a Band-Aid on something that it's never going to heal unless you work on it, right? And coming back home was hard, I won't lie. I knew no Jews growing up except for my family, and we were very nonchalant. But I still tried.
Do you find that you're still growing and still
Always.
Did you lose everything or?
No, you know what? Once you learn Judaism or your spirituality, when you come connected and you find your way, you can't lose it. No matter how far, before falling on Judaism or coming back to doing tshuva, I knew nothing. And then there was no center to come back to in my mind, in my heart. There was no structure to come to. So whenever I get lost or if I get too depressed, now I know there's a place I can go back to. If it's what I'm doing, I don't have to be strict. This was another thing when I started learning that I found very hard, was I was really strict on myself, which caused me to be more depressed. And if anybody knows, depression is actually not a mitzvah.
Right.
And it started making me more depressed because I wasn't living up to certain expectations that even I was learning in the Torah. I was expecting too much for myself as well, which also started, and even when I came back home, I still had that expectation on myself. Oh, you still have to keep kosher like this. You have to go to your kitchen. You have to go out here. You have to wear a skirt. And it was not helping me achieve the mitzvah.
It wasn't helping you grow, probably.
Grow or learn, or even just to love myself as who I was. I still struggle. I think everybody still struggles when it comes to loving themselves and working towards a better themselves. And one of my biggest lessons is just be patient. If you would not sit there and yell at a kid for doing something, why are you going to sit there and yell at yourself for doing something? The kid doesn't know any better, and I only have one life. So everything that I'm doing, and everything you're doing, and everything he's doing, it's the first time we're doing it. So why am I going to hate myself or be so hard on myself or scold myself so hardly when I'm just here to learn? I'm just here to grow and to do my best. And again, like they say, you learn A, you teach A. And I learn A, and hopefully I can teach A to my children.
Yeah.
And hopefully the next step,
you learn Aleph, you teach Aleph.
That's right. And hopefully next I can be able to, they'll be able to teach Beit, and then Beit, and they can keep going. But I couldn't take the whole entire
it's baby
two
steps.
Generations of
baby steps.
Judaism that's been lost in my home and make it my responsibility. My responsibility is the step I could take.
That's amazing. And it's an amazing step, and you see it. It's like you're bringing back those two. I wanted to say that before. Like you're really, it took 2 generations since your ancestors left. You can't just boom jump back. You need.
It's a process.
Exactly.
It's like my children. It's like you're raising your kids. You can't just teach them how to use a fork one day and expect them that you should know. Do it now.
But as long as you have the goal, you have the vision, you have the
Exactly.
goal. It's really about where you're looking. A lot of people forget that. It's not about how you look or you're getting somewhere. Take your time. It's a process, but it's important to have a goal and to know where you're going. If not, you're completely lost.
This is the big word that you just said. It's a process. Everything is process. I work with special needs kids.
I was just going to ask you, what do you work in? So,
I work with special needs children, and the only reason why I came upon this career is not by choice. Some people have the choice to choose their career and become the person that they want to be and all this stuff. And then there are others like me where life chooses it for you. My son was diagnosed at 18 months with autism, which was a huge transition for us, just as a family, because what you go through when your child is diagnosed with anything, and I'm sure it's different on every level, but it's still the same, is still a loss. Because we have a dream.
Wow.
We have dreams for our kids. We have expectations. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's huge.
Take your time.
We have dreams and expectations for our kids. My husband to play baseball with his son, to hang out and do all these buddy stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom, door closed. Nope, your son has autism. He'll never be able to speak. He'll never be able to talk. He'll never be able to learn. He won't be able to do anything. And the thing is, you're coming from a world of ignorance. Like, we don't know what it is. I had no idea. Autism? What? What are you talking about? And they were really cold. And I understand now, when they diagnosed him, why they were cold. It's because they become complacent in their role as
When did you say
the
they is who?
The doctors.
The doctors were
the
cold?
doctors, the specialists, they were cold, and because they become complacent in their work, and it's because even dealing with my husband when he got sick, it's not their fault.
They're used to it, I guess.
They're used to it, but also they can't get connected to
Right.
every single patient that they get, and then it becomes a lot on
They
them.
have
And
to detach.
this is where, as a human being, we have to put ourselves in other people's shoes, so that way we don't build resentment towards people. Anyway, so when my son was diagnosed, it was a lot. It was a lot for my husband. It was a lot for myself. I was ready to take it on. My husband, he was a single child, so just having children was a
big deal.
process.
Okay.
And then now being dealt with this, it was a blow to the house, to the entire house, to our dreams, to our aspiration, and our fear. We all know that the world is not a nice place. We all know how the world could be. And once your child is diagnosed with anything, you know that the world is going to be even that much more meaner. We've all been to high school. We've all been to elementary. We all know what, I think those are the worst times of our lives, is high school and elementary. It's all that judgment and stuff. And so that was a transition. And that transition for our family took a good 10 years.
Wow.
I jumped into the role, and I think this is where my pragmatic attitude came to play. And meaning pragmatic is emotionally detach and just become, this is what needs to be done, this is what we do, this is what needs to be done, this is what we do. My husband, on the other hand, he was filled with sorrow.
Grief. He was grieving, like you said, a loss. Wow.
I think he grieved his son for almost 10 years. And I had to let it happen. And I understood where it was coming from. Sorry, I'm so emotional today.
It's okay. Don't be sorry.
And I had to let it happen, and I had to let him go through it the way he had to, and it made it so that for a good part of the time, I was raising the kids alone, and he worked most of the time to provide. So we built a routine. I take care of the kids, do this. But after a while, even financially, these therapies are insane. Occupational therapy, $100 an hour. He needs to do it 5 times a week. Speech therapy, $90 an hour. He needs to do it 5 to 6 times a week. His therapies were coming up to be more expensive than my rent. And I said, okay, this has got to change. And plus, working a regular job, having a child on the spectrum of any sort or any disability, is, if I go to a regular job, I'm an accountant, I have to leave my son just freaked out, and I have to go pick him up. My son is this, my son is that. I'm going to get fired. It's hard to keep. I don't know what's going to happen one day to the next. You're living literally on anxiety.
Did you find your jobs were understanding?
A lot of people weren't, and even if they were, I wasn't. Because I know what my responsibility is as a worker and also as a mom, and I had to make a choice. I was taking classes to become a nurse at the time, and I entrusted my son with a daycare worker, only to find out at the age of 3, no, he was a year and a half, my daughter was 3, that he was locked in a cupboard all day.
Oh my God.
Oh,
And that's horrible. What did you do?
Speak. This boy cannot speak. He cannot tell me anything. And my daughter's the one who told me. I stopped my career. I stopped trying to be a nurse. I stopped trying to aim for the skies and be Wonder Woman, and I stayed home. So I stayed home, but financially that was putting more of a toll on my husband, because now he was working 50, 60 hours a week minimum and taking side jobs just to like maintain everything. And then I just looked at him and I'm like, what if I went to work for the schools? Because then this would allow me, if I went to work for a specific school, which is a special needs school on the South Shore, then they will understand where I'm coming from. And they know already what my trials are. And in the summer I'm off, and the pet days I'm off, I'm still with the kids. Okay, so I started as a lunch lady and worked my way up. I'm in the process. I have one more project to do, and hopefully, if I can get it done.
Tell us about your project.
It's just to finish up my my special care counseling courses.
Okay. Wow.
So I have this one class left to do, one project left to finish, and then I'll officially be certified as a technician. But I did this, and I took this course. I went, not taking the course, I went to work in this field so I can understand my son.
Wow.
There's no other way to do it. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't be the super mom and be the worker and provide, and it was just mounting up. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go and learn and work. So it was two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
And the stone wasn't financially as big as I'd like it to be, but it was what it is. And then I learned more about speech therapy, occupational therapy, things that we take for granted, like speech, movement.
And your son
the
talks
comprehensive
today. I just want to say, we had, how many years do we know each other for?
Oh, I don't know. He's at least 7, at least. If not
No,
more. Since you came?
9 years. And I really saw the transition that Isaac went through today. He's a teenager. He's 14?
He's
15. He had a bar mitzvah with us. He talks. He's such an amazing person, and I give it all to you. I don't know how you did it, but it's all to you.
How did I do it? Let me tell you how I did it. I think it's Rabbi Akiva who sat near the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go say it. Tell it.
So Rabbi Akiva, before he was Rabbi Akiva, I don't know what he lived. He lived a very simple life, I guess. I'm not too sure about his details before, but I remember his wife wanted him to learn, right?
They were very poor because his wife was from a wealthy family, and the father disowned him because he didn't want her to marry
because
Rabbi.
he wasn't learned, he wasn't educated in this. And one day, and she would sit there and, you should learn. And then one day he was sitting beside a waterfall, and not too far from the waterfall, he noticed that there's a rock, a strong, solid, hard rock with a hole directly into the center. And he's like, why is there a hole? What could have brought this hole into this rock? And he noticed that there was one drop of water that just fell onto this rock, and throughout the years, with persistence and perseverance, it just kept on hitting in the same place that he eventually penetrated the rock and created a hole. And this is how we learn. This is literally the basis of how we learn, and how I help my son and even hopefully my daughters get through their education.
Because we all need it. We all need it.
It's repetition, and through repetition and patience and love. And I'm telling you, love children. No, you can be stern as stern can be, but if there's love behind it, they will feel that and they will connect to that. So they will understand the lessons. Yeah, you seem a little harsh. Yeah, I go, yes, because right now we're learning. But the kids still take it with love, and if they know that it's coming from a good place, they will learn. It might take longer for some than others. And myself, being I'm dyslexic and ADD, I fell through the cracks. I did not get the help. The system did not have the patience, and
there was no Batya's persevering there.
There was no, and the only people that literally made a difference were 2 teachers. And what it wasn't because they were stern or because they were just, they were patient. There was actual emotion. They didn't just come in and become teachers. I'm a teacher, listen to me, this is what we gotta do. Nope. They were like, you may have not done right, but I see something in you. And that's all you have to do is see something in your children, see something in the person that you're talking to, and just go with it. That's it. That's what we did.
Wow. You know what? I'm amazed about you. I could imagine that it's not over. I mean, with even if your kids are Isaac's 14, you still have to, right? I mean.
Well, with my kids, with my daughters as well. There's because my son was on the spectrum and my husband worked a lot. I was also very fearful as a mom. I was very insecure as a mother, period. Like, I think when we first had our first children, and my first and my second, they're both very close in age. When it came to my son, because he wasn't neurotypical, I coddled too much. I coddled. And I didn't forget about my girls, but I took for granted that they were neurotypical. And they will understand with time. If they don't get it now, they will get it. And unfortunately, through hindsight, we live and learn. It did cause a form of resentment. And this I'm trying to work on now. Now that I don't have to worry as much. But still, it's always, like I said, it's a growing, learning process being a parent. We make mistakes, own them, own who you are.
We all make mistakes.
And don't lie to yourself. Like, seriously, just own it and try to make it better from here on out. You know, you learn Aleph, you teach Aleph. Well, I just learned Beit. So now I'm like, hey.
And how do you do, how did you juggle? I'm just thinking of, like, you have your son, you have your daughters, you have your work, and then you had this, you want to tell us a bit about the last 17 months? Or
my husband, in June 2018, he was the age of 41. He was diagnosed with, we went into the hospital thinking he had an appendicitis. And we went there, we sat there for 12 hours straight, only to, at midnight, for a doctor to come in and finally do an ultrasound and realize that he had a T3 tumor on his colon. Hence, meaning he had colon cancer. And it was stage 3. From then on out, I'm still, because it's still very new, trying to grasp all of it. I talk about it because it's the only way we heal. It's the only way we get through anything is by being real. Doing it this way was not, but I love you, Sterna.
But you know what everyone wants to hear and
sometimes,
connect.
you know what, it's also connect, but it's also like, I can tell you what it really is like right now. If you tell me in about 2-3 years from now, I'll be like, yeah, I kind of remember this is how it was and this is what we went through, but right now, this is real. This is, we're still mourning, obviously. It's only been for 8 weeks on Tuesday.
Wow.
From the day one, I think we took 2 days, my husband and I, just to like grasp what was going on. We had doctor's appointment after the other, and then when we finally realized that this is for real, because sometimes somebody says, oh, you got colon cancer, or you got
it goes right over.
You're just like, whatever, you just keep doing what you're doing, and no, we really had to make this soak in. And we did, but we also took it for granted, because my mother-in-law had breast cancer, small cell breast cancer, and she overcame it. My mother had a double mastectomy. She overcame it. A really good friend of the family had prostate cancer. He overcame it. The only cancer, 2 people that I know that has passed away were when it came to brain tumors. So to me, I was like, my husband's only 41. He's strong. He goes to the gym. He takes his vitamins. He does his things.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. 1 tumor, he'll be fine. So that's what I mean by we kind of just took it for granted. We're like, okay, we're just going to go through a process. And again, my pragmatic attitude came into play. I backed off on an emotional level and says, okay, this is what we have to do. We got to go to the doctor here. We got to be here. We got to do this. Let's just follow the steps, because we do have to understand that no matter what we're going through, no matter how emotional and how things work, there's a process to everything. And we are no different from the next person sitting beside us. So all these psychology letters, all the notes and people, what they say, and he says you should do this. And the fundamentals are we need time, we need patience, and we need to do. That's it. So that was time, patience, and do. So we get up, we go, do appointments, he talks, the fear is there, but we'll be okay. And we were okay. We were okay for quite a while. He had the chemotherapy was working. I loved it. I got to sit with him. We took it so much for granted that in his first chemotherapy session we argued. Why? Because we got to keep it real. We're still husband and wife. It's still what it is.
We got to argue.
Or I don't care if you are going through chemo. The fact is, you're still wrong. That's just the way it is. So we argued the first time we went, but I sat there for 4 or 5 hours straight. We sat there together. It was like our time. We'd wake up, get ready in the morning, go there, pick up our coffee, and pick up our pastry, sit there, watch a movie together, fall asleep, and then it was done. Come home, take a few days, and then back to normal again. We did this for quite some time, and then COVID hit. COVID sucks.
Did it make it worse?
COVID took away the quality time that I would have with him. I knew my husband was afraid. I knew that he was, this was a lot for him to handle. And the fact that I was there, sorry, it's always been me and my husband, through thick and thin. And there was a lot of thick. But it's always been me and him, that no matter what I was going to do, no matter how much we argued, no matter how intense we were, I was going to be there, and he was not going to do this alone. And then COVID hit, and then lockdown happened.
So he had to go alone.
He had to go into his chemotherapy sessions by himself.
I didn't know they didn't even allow the spouse.
No,
that's crazy.
Not during high COVID in March.
Wow.
We couldn't. He did get very sick in December, which is another story. So so that unfortunately cut everything off. So instead I stayed downstairs. I stayed downstairs in my car for 4 or 5 hours and then just waited. And every appointment I just went just to make sure that in case he got out early, I was still there. Like, I was still going to be there. And that's how that went.
Wow.
And chemo was working.
You? What kept you going? I mean, you're talking and I'm like, wow.
Like I said, remember I keep saying I'm very pragmatic. Just do.
So you didn't think too deeply.
You just do. Like, there's a process to everything. Like, you have to take time. You have to be patient. You have to. Mourners go through this. Grief goes through this. When we went through my son's process, I think that kind of helped. And the fact that I also did Shva, that helped. I understood transition. I understood that there was going to be high emotions. I work with kids with special needs where transition is huge, where patience is necessary, where time is it's mandatory, and we don't give ourselves that. We don't give ourselves that because we're so like, oh, we gotta work, we gotta do this. Yeah, you need to stop. You need to let it sink in. And even like, look, it's only been 8 weeks. I keep saying 4. It's only been 8 weeks, and I know it's a transition. I know my kids are too, and I know that we still have a long road ahead of us.
You know what's interesting? When I hear you, I went a little different but similar. And since he got sick, I felt like, okay, I'm sharing something personal with. I wasn't supposed to share this, but I hear you, and I felt like when I was young, I wasn't told what's happening. It's just I knew my father was sick, but I didn't know anything. I wasn't told anything, and suddenly he passed away. I didn't even know how bad it was. It was very shocking. And because, like you said, you have to go through the process and pragmatic, sometimes people tend to protect children and take that pragmatic way. And I didn't mourn him. I couldn't mourn him until much older, until I was much older in my 20s. That's when I actually mourned him. And I find that the way you're doing it is so helping, and it's helping me understand the process that I should have gone through and didn't know what I was going through. And I think it's so interesting that you say that your son, when your son was born, it was also a kind of loss. So this, we could somehow connect, everyone has some kind of loss, whether it's an actual person, whether it's something that you lost.
A dream, an emotion.
But I think the process is the same, to accept it, the time. What are the 3 things you say? The
time.
I
definitely time. I forgot them. There's time.
And the pragmatic, I like that. To
structure. You have to take the time to go through it. You have to acknowledge that there is going to be a process, and you just have to go through it through all kinds of transitions. I'm not a psychologist, a therapist. I can't tell you exactly what they are. I just let instinctively, I guess. And you have to understand that people who are human, like my children, I know as a mom, I do not understand what they are going through. I still have my father. I can't even imagine this man's blood runs through their veins. I can't fathom their grief. I can just give them time and listen, pay attention, and just be there when they need me. That's all I can do. And that's what I did with my husband. I couldn't fix his problems. I couldn't change it. I could just be there. And unfortunately, it sounds so little and so benign, but it's probably the best thing you can give to anyone is to know they're not alone, you know? And never lie to kids.
It's huge.
Never lie to kids. Never. Tell them straight up from day one. It was the hardest thing for us to do.
I think it's the thing that before the generation wanted to protect kids and didn't tell them.
Or not understanding that kids wouldn't be able to understand this. And look, I'm a grown adult, and I still don't understand the magnitude of what is going on. That I can't expect them to. But what helps me get through it is knowing what to do or what's going on.
Were you open with? Sorry, I cut you off. Were you open with them? You told them everything
from day one. We told them everything, slowly but surely. And the first time, it was fine. And then when the cancer came back, or shall I say, started to spread, we kind of waited a little bit just because
it's a lot.
It's one thing to tell your kids the first time. It's another thing to tell your kids this ain't working. And so my husband just wanted to take a little bit of time. And then we told them, just because they know, they feel what's going on. My daughter even said it. She was aware that something was going on. And when we told her the second time, she played strong. These kids, they play strong. And I'm sure today they're still playing strong. They're still walking around like, we just got to wake up. We got to breathe. We got to keep going. Yeah, that's what we got to do. And that's what I tell them. But when it became serious, we stopped telling the kids that it's going to be okay. Because when somebody first gets sick,
so like, is not a good thing.
It's going to be good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Then when it became real in my husband's head, in my head, the kids were like, is he going to be okay? I'm like, it started becoming, we don't know. We don't know. There's a bigger power at hand. There's something else going on.
What tools did you give
and
them to cope?
Called
did you give them?
There wasn't much to give. What can you give? What can you give that's going to help? I called the schools. I let them know. Don't tell my kids everything's going to be okay. I spoke to their teachers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't want, because strangers have this, people always have this tendency to comfort. But the thing is,
or to protect.
Exactly. And even with, I'm a grown adult, and people would be like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. No. Not everything is going to be okay, and we have to be okay that not everything is going to be okay. So how do we
deal with that? Because that's a hard thing for me, that not everything's going to be okay.
You have to accept the fact that not everything's going to be okay. How did you grow and learn?
Very painful. Very painful.
The falling off your bike hurts. And I'm comparing my husband's passing to falling off a bike. It's not the same, but it's the process to getting there, you know? To being okay with not being okay. It's not okay. It sucks. My husband's not there. Like, we wake up every day, and I have one jacket, one hat, and a pair of boots that smell maybe like him. Trust me, I'm not smelling his boots. But what else do we have? We have no choice but to wake up, because, like they say, living is not for the dead, and we still have to wake up every day and breathe.
Yeah.
So we have to find a way. So I just make sure that I'm present, there, when they scream, when they yell, when they cry. I am not, like, if you talk to my kids, unfortunately, I'm not the big cuddler. I'm not a person who goes around giving hugs and telling me, oh, I love you. I'm not a coo or caller. I became very, because of my lifestyle and all the transitions I've been through, I became, like I keep saying, pregnant. And I do distance myself, but because if I'm full of emotion, I can't help it. So I did.
You're the mother.
I created a little distance, and my husband, I knew he was there, so he would coo and call them, and oh, mon bébé, ça va aller. But now he's not there, and I have to remind myself I have to become that coo or caller. So it's just another position I have to take, but which is fine. I love him. It's I don't know, one step at a time. We're still learning every day.
Yeah.
And today is okay. Tomorrow, oh, they want to scream, they want to yell, they want to cry. It's fine. I'm here. They want to ignore. They want to stay in the room, play the video games, and walk away. It's fine. Again, expect the unexpected and pray for that.
Wow, thank you, Batya. That's so inspiring, and thank you for talking so early. I know it's at 8 weeks. 8 weeks. That's crazy. I just want to tell you guys, this is a beautiful pegboard that he came. He was so excited to help us with the Chabad house and the plans, and he built it all by himself. Really, he figured out where to put the holes and
what to do,
all the details with Mia. Mia helped, and together they built this beautiful thing. So his memory lives on. His memory lives on through his kids and through you, Batya. And I just want to, before I end off, I just want you to maybe share. You have so many, like, every time I talk to you, you have so many, like, quotes that you're into, or, like, analogies, or, like, stories. What, do you have something that, like, like, I see how how you went through all this, which wasn't easy from the earlier years to now. What do you feel like is something that helped you, either quote, a story, a lesson, something that really...
One of my biggest lessons, this is funny because my father used to say this to me all the time growing up, and we come from a very simple home, a very untraditional home environment, but my father was always like the positive thinker, the guru, if you want, if we were to have anything, and he kept on saying, from day one, just do to others what you want others to do. Just
say that slowly, because
don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you, and vice versa. Do to only to others what you want to do yourself. And I was like, okay, whatever. It's nice, fun, little expression. And then I heard the story of Hillel and Gamal, and the man who wanted to learn Torah jumping on one foot. He went to Gamal.
Hillel and Shammai.
So he went to Shammai, and he's this man standing on one foot, and the chutzpah he has, teach me Torah as I stand here on one foot. And Shammai yelled at him. Gave him such a scolding. I can't learn all this in one session. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the guy walked away. Whatever. And then he went up to Hillel, and he went, he goes, you're supposed to know. He goes, teach me the Torah as I dance on one foot. And Hillel said the most amazing thing in the world. He goes, do to others what you want others to do to you. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. The rest is commentary, guys. The rest is commentary. So be honest and true to yourself. Understand that your perception is not everybody else's. As this beautiful thing was passing on Facebook, 3 + 6 = 9. So does 5 + 4. So that said,
there's 2 ways.
There's more than one ways to view one life. There's 70 different ways to perceive one word. There's how many levels in a human being. There's love, there's hate, there's all the 7 sefirot.
Yeah.
And then you have the Chachma Bin Hadad, and you have the 3 levels of understanding and processing. So give people a break. Give people a break. Don't judge
them. Give yourself a break. You know, it's interesting. I actually didn't expect you to say that. That's a beautiful quote. And lately, I've been less harsh on myself. And I realized by being less harsh on yourself, suddenly, you're less harsh on others.
Yeah.
So it's really like, and now you bring that quote. It's beautiful by now.
No expectations. Don't expect from yourself. Just live it. We're here to live, to experience, to learn something. Like, I'm 43. I didn't learn everything. I don't know everything, and I'll never know everything. But I only have one life, and I'm still a kid. And I'm going to treat myself that way. I'm going to still give myself the patience as I would my kids. Yes, sometimes I yell at myself like I do them. Don't worry about it. Gotta own it. And just be true. It's easier said than done, guys. It seems so easy. And the most important thing, after losing my husband, the one thing that I'm going to sound so cheesy, but I'm going to tell you something. The most important things in this world are the little things. Waking up, making coffee for someone you love, sending them a little smile here and there. Because when they pass away, it's not all the big gestures they did. It's the little things. The ring, the smell of the coffee, the perfume, the this. This is what creates an afterlife for the people who are still around.
Those are the things you miss.
Yeah, those are the things you remember. These are the things. And despite, like, we cry, we have our moments, and some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't stop. I'm so sorry, but don't be sorry, because the fact that I'm crying means I love. And that's good for me. I'm okay with that.
Wow, that's a beautiful message. Enjoy those little moments. Don't forget, or take, how do you call it? Cherish those little moments. And it's not cheesy. It's not cheesy, especially now that I feel like everything was taken away from us. Really like, there's no, and we have to.
And I'm going to take this opportunity, like, I'm going to be as political as I could right now, please wear your mask. I go, there's a lot of people out there who are dying of things that are other than COVID just simply because they can't get an operation or because they have to wait in line. And all we have to do is help them is wear a mask, keep our distance, wash our hands, and stay home. We can just do that. Look, I would have been able to have how many more hours with my husband just sitting there? Don't get me wrong. When my husband got sick, COVID hit in March, we had a chance to stay together as a family. Do you know, with me working 2 jobs, my husband working his 40, 60, 70 hours a week, the kids going to school, by the time we got home, we were so beat and burnt. COVID gave us that time to come together. And he did it in such a great time where we needed that time with my husband to be able to connect. So, unfortunately, there are downsides of COVID. I think keep your mask on so people can still get their surgeries. But there was also not time where we get to be with family, something that I think humanity has taken for granted and made work a priority.
Wow.
So just take that time. Take it easy, guys. Don't be so hard on yourselves. I know it's okay to say a bad word once in a while.
That's yours.
Just give me a bad word once in a while. That's it. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you, Batya.
My
That was
pleasure.
beautiful. You always
Thank you for
inspire
coming.
me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Does
very
anyone have questions? Let's see. Should I unmute?
We're getting used to looking at my face.
Why, you don't have a mirror at home? So
No,
how do we,
it's not
how
the
do we
same.
unmute? Can you unmute? I don't know how to.
Right? Oh, it should be. Oh,
No,
nope.
this is a.
That's
I think I saw.
Not sure.
Unmute. Okay, you guys can all talk. Is everyone unmuted? Oh.
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Hi, everyone. On Facebook
Hi,
also, if you
guys.
have questions. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's the way we try to connect is on Zoom. I seriously miss seeing everybody. I miss seeing everybody in real. Do you have anything to share? Anyone have anything to share?
Just wanted to say it's very brave of you to come out and talk just 8 weeks after
Yeah.
the event, and it's a powerful talk, and it's very brave of you to do that because I wouldn't be able to.
People be surprised at what you can and cannot do. Not easy.
Batya, you finished, Cheryl?
Go, Dorit.
Batya, I listened every word of yours. I absorb it all, like really, really. And your energy is inspiring. In French, ça nous fait relativiser beaucoup de choses. How do you say that in English? But
Relative. Like it makes everything, it changes your perspective. Ta perspective.
No, not only that, sometimes we complain about so little things. But they're still with us, around us, alive, loving us. Why are we complaining? And this is what I got when you talked about the smell of coffee and the small things. I really thank you.
But still, keep it real. Argue once in a while. It's
Also,
okay.
I took a note. Look what I took. One sentence that you told, and I write it down. And correct me if I did it wrong, but I just the only space where you can be stable is your mind.
Wow.
I love
The only thing you control.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a few comments here.
Much love.
Oh, Karen was watching. I hope Karen, she said, this is so powerful, a mirror between you, one giving strength and experience to one another.
Thank Karen for everything.
So real. I'd love to hear more about perception fix. What's perception fix?
Perception fix.
You want to share that?
It's I've had a lot of people, not only since my husband passed away, from before, from when I even was raising my son and my kids and the hecticness and the craziness that was going on, because we're a loud family and there's always something going on. Perception fix is something I'm going to work on. It's hopefully going to be a website. I'm just trying to help people change the way they perceive their everyday life. My husband and I, just for So we argued so much, but there was still a lot of love there, and that's what a lot of people from the outside don't realize. Just because there's things going on doesn't mean it's what's really going on. And the perception fix is really going to be focusing on changing your perception and not just taking what you see as reality.
Okay, beautiful. So perception. So basically, changing your perception.
Yep.
Okay, these are important things to remember because we all face loss at one time or another. Can't
We do.
avoid it. Exactly.
And
I
losses
agree.
comes in many different shapes and forms.
It's not exactly. It's not only. You see, I didn't think of that when you told me about.
And the 5 steps of grieving, what goes on, we had to go through it when my son was diagnosed. And we didn't know what that was then. And the same thing is when it came to my husband, a lot of people were like, how are you doing this a lot? And I think, unfortunately, my life I've been through so many transitions and so many realizations that maybe this might have helped. And it's not because I'm not feeling it. It's not because it's not as intense. It's just because I understand that we just have to give ourselves time and patience.
Okay.
About communication.
Okay, Julien Bertrand, I don't know if you know him, but he asked, how is the acceptation of the Orthodox Jewish community for the children on the spectrum?
It's hard to say. I live in a very open-minded community. Okay, this is I read an article from the Lubavitcher Rebbe at one point. Please don't quote me. All I know is when I was reading it, I was a little taken aback on how we view special needs. Special needs is not, they're not subjected to the same rules and the same laws because they are here for a purpose. Hashem has created them for a reason to teach us. And this is how I view my son and how I view all special needs because this is what I work in. I have learned more from these children and these individuals than I will ever be able to teach them. And I think that's what they're here for. They're really here to
teach us.
They're here to teach us. They already know. My son, there are things that he's so naturally connected to. I wish I can have an example right now.
You told me a story after your husband passed away.
From the tattoo?
Yes.
Okay, I came home and I got myself a tattoo in honor of my husband from it's on my hand. And my son comes in and he's like, ooh, jokingly, Daddy's not gonna like that. Daddy don't like your tattoo. And then I went upstairs. I was like, okay, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. I come back downstairs and my son looks at me and goes, Mom. And his voice and his demeanor completely changed. He goes, Dad does like your tattoo. I'm like, how do you know that? He goes, kind of heard him and felt him. They see things differently. They also, like, he's a lot more, you know how we're blinded by a lot of our needs and our wants? And he can see the purest things in everyone.
I feel like they're more real.
To a certain extent, they're more genuine with their emotions because they don't hide it as well as we try to think we do.
Yeah.
But when it came to the Rebbe, from what I understand from the article, they have their job here.
It says the Rebbe actually said they come from a very high source and they're connected to Hashem.
And it's an honor every day for me to be working with the students at work. I become like one of my coworkers. She looks at me. She goes, "You're like that raccoon on Guardians of the Galaxy who understands that tree, who only says Groot all the time." Because I can sit there and because there's more to communication than just what's coming out of the mouth. Some students sit there and just go ma 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 all day, but really they're talking about their iPad and how they don't want to go home or they want to take the bus and this hurts and this. And I can sit there and have a whole conversation because you have to pay attention to not only what's coming out of their mouth, but their body language and what has been going on. So I think it's amazing. I've learned to observe a lot more.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Someone says this. Thank you for your courage. I can relate so much. My unique son is on the spectrum too. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do you have anything you want to tell him?
No, stand strong because listen to your kid. You'll be surprised on what they'll be able to teach you. And because they already have a son on the spectrum, they already know this.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, be patient and communication. Like I said, I have one person who was calling me last week, and they were like, "But my daughter doesn't speak. She's 8 years old." And I go and I deliver hard reality. I am not a sugarcoater. I think there's too much miscommunication in sugarcoating. So I pretty much told them, I go, "There's a good chance that she'll never talk. if she doesn't talk by the age of 18, at 12, she's probably never going to talk. And he was devastated. I'm like, why are you being so devastated? She still gives you hugs. She still shows you what she wants. She still has facial expressions. She still has other else. There's so many. There's sign language we can learn. There's so many more different ways to
changing
communicate.
perception.
There's so many. And these that's why I had no choice but to do that when you're faced with a child or a loved one with a disability. You have to change the way you view, and it's a gift. That in itself is a gift. How many people can say that they have to walk out of themselves and think somewhere else in order to be able to help someone? Many people don't. If you're talking to another neurotypical individual, you're not going to sit there. You're going to take for granted that they understand everything you're saying. But when you sit there with somebody who's not, you have to get out of yourself in order to see and understand somebody else. And because I learned to do that with my son and the students, I can also sit here and change my perception when I sit and talk with you. I know that, yes, you're a religious woman, but I also know you're a woman.
Yeah.
There's still the basics.
Yeah, I think we read everything, and we're gonna end it here. What time is it? 9:07. Wow. Okay, we had an hour. Thank you so much, Batya, again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And again, I really believe that everyone has something to share. Everyone has so much strength. Some of people are aware, some are not aware, and by sharing this is how we connect. We shine. Mm-hmm. I was saying how we shine. This is how we shine. We're like connected to the sun, and we're a sun ray, and that's how we shine. So again, I would love to thank you, Batya, and I would love to hear if anybody else has things to share. You guys are welcome. So have a good night, and stay safe. Bye, everybody. Good night. Bye on Facebook.